Hi, Ms Graham. It's good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us. Your members on the picket lines again this morning. How are they feeling?
Well, look, Kay, they're feeling very, very disappointed. It's been 5 weeks since Unite ambulance workers were out on strike, and we believed what the government said, that they were serious about resolution. And in that 5 weeks, there has been absolutely no offer being put on the table. Rishi Sunak is missing in action. It's very, very clear that he now needs to come to the table as the CEO of UK PLC, come to the table and deal with this dispute.
Last week, I think it was last Friday, you said the government is demonising, your words, ambulance workers about life and limb cover. What were you referring to there?
Well, unfortunately, ministers, and I'm going to use the word lie, ministers have lied continuously about ambulance workers not doing life and limb cover. That is totally and utterly untrue. I was on the picket line in the West Midlands and there was life and limb cover. People were coming off the picket line to give extra support in relation to that. And there's something when ministers are beginning to lie in the middle of a dispute. And so therefore what I want them to do, and I want Rishi Sunak now to come to the table, it's very clear, Kay, that Stephen Barclay does not have any authority. He doesn't have the authority to do the deal. There hasn't even been one single offer in 5 weeks. So we now need Rishi Sunak to take this seriously. This is the NHS. Get round the table, let's do the deal and let these people go back to work.
Has there been any communication with the Prime Minister, either by you or other representatives of the NHS unions?
The Prime Minister has absolutely not spoken to us about this in any way, shape or form. To be honest with you, I haven't seen him very often in the last 5 weeks anywhere, apart from in the back of a car not wearing a seatbelt. What he needs to do now is he needs to come to the table and do the deal that we need to do to get these people back to work. This is his responsibility. This is the biggest abdication of leadership that I have seen in negotiations ever in 30 years of negotiating. He needs to do the job he's paid for, get round the table so these people now can get back to work.
You've called for the abolition of the NHS pay review body, I believe. The government would say that's an independent pay review body that helps decide how much money is available for the round of pay for NHS workers. Why do you want it abolished?
Well, look, I think the problem, Kay, with this, and I think it's probably well noted now, is that it isn't independent. That is really part of the problem. But also the scoping around it, the government really gives it such a steer that it can't really come out of that straitjacket. And the government picks and chooses. In 2014, it didn't accept the pay review body's recommendations. In 2018, we're negotiating with the government on salary spines. So it really is picking and choosing how it uses it. What we should do is what happens in every other negotiation. I'm the leader of the biggest private sector union. The private sector wouldn't operate like this. If there's negotiations of this calibre, the CEO would be in a room with me, would be negotiating and would put a deal back to the members. That's what the government needs to do. Now, either Rishi Sunak is not up to the job and he doesn't know how to negotiate, or there is something more sinister going on here. So I'm calling him to come to the table, sit down with the General Secretaries, let's get a deal on the table and then we can give that deal back to our members to vote on.
I think it's fair to say that it's becoming very clear that the government is unlikely to budge on a pay deal this year. You're only 2 or 3 months away from next year's negotiations. By that, I mean April 2023. Is now the time to put a pin in this and start negotiating a better deal for next year?
Well, that would mean that these workers didn't get a pay rise for 22 and 23. And to be honest with you, we cannot allow that to happen. You know, it sounds like white noise, but these were the people that were put out there in the pandemic when we didn't have a vaccine. Nobody knew what was going to go on. People were dying. NHS workers died. And I think it's a national disgrace, an absolute national disgrace that we are not giving these workers a proper pay rise. So we are going to be here until the government comes to its senses and decides to talk about 22 and 23. They need to come back to the negotiating table and put an offer in. They've been around your studio, Kay, saying they're in constructive talks and they are talking about offers. We've had no offer, and unfortunately I can't put the words constructive talks on a ballot paper. I need to have a deal that I can put back to the members so that they can then ballot and everybody can go back to work.
What does increased industrial action look like, though? Because obviously what you're doing at the moment is not making the government budge at all. What more can you do?
Well, I suppose the 6th of February is, quite a sad day for the NHS. This is obviously a day when you're going to have paramedics, NHS workers across the piece, nurses, all coming out together, which is the first time that that's happened. We've tried to sort of make the strikes happen where we don't come out all at the same time, so that that's better for the service. Now, what I would hope is that the government, at the very least, if they're not listening to the NHS workers, at the very least listen to the public. The surveys are clearly showing that the public, who by the way are their voters, want them to sort this out, and they agree that they should get a pay rise. So if Rishi Sunak decides to ignore the public, then I think that will cost him badly at the ballot box. What they need to do now is to listen to the public, listen to the workforce, come round the table, do a negotiation that we can put back to our members. We are compromising. They can hear that in terms of what we're saying. Come to the table and let's see if we can get a deal.
If lives are lost on the 6th of February when ambulance workers, emergency call handlers and nurses all come out on strike on the same day, who will be responsible for that?
Well, look, the first thing I'd say, well, the government fairly and squarely, but the first thing I would say is I really hope the 6th of February does not happen. There's a lot of days between now and the 6th of February. The government has an opportunity any time they want to bring the General Secretaries in a room. We will all be there at a drop of the hat. We'll cancel and we'll clear all diaries to do it. But even on the 6th of February, we are going to make sure that we have life and limb cover. But I would say this, Kay, because it's an important figure. 500 people are dying every single week waiting for an ambulance in the 5th richest economy in the world. That is an absolute national disgrace.
It's not helping, though, is it, when your members go out on strike?
But I suppose what we would say to that, Kay, is what else have we got to do? We're trying to talk to them. We're trying to bring them around a table. We're trying to say, come and negotiate. We're doing everything we can to get them to come to the table, and they're absolutely refusing. But I have to say, this is about pay. Of course it is. Absolutely about pay. But it's also about the very existence of the NHS. How could we have a situation on a normal day when no strike is taking place whatsoever, that 500 people are dying in Britain every week waiting for an ambulance? That is unbelievable that is happening in our country. So we have to put a stake in the ground. We have to defend the NHS, and the public want us to do that also.
OK, we must leave it there. Thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. Do keep us in touch with any movement on these continuing strikes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.